The middle class persons because Ola was costly. If a
Ah,
single person has to travel, then the cost of the Ola was too high.
yeah,
For that, Rapido invented.
perfect. Okay, so somebody at Rapido's side, they saw this need, right? So the problem is, what the customer is facing, but then that could be turned into something where you could address it. You could provide a solution, right? And that could become the product itself, right? So essentially the answer is simple, that you spot what is hot, right, for the product. Now I'm going to and like Bharat said, right, I mean, somebody spotted that Ola was expensive, so let's figure out if I can give the consumers a cheaper mode of transport, and here you go, you had Rapido. All right, so somebody spotted what is hot, right? So, but this is a very simple answer, right? I would talk about this a little more now. So again, let's keep it interactive. What I want to understand is, what do you see on the screen? Anyone?
Q.
Queues? Yeah. And where could these queues be for? Take a guess.
Outside examination hall,
Sorry, come again.
outside an examination hall or outside Apple's.
Outside an Apple store. Okay. Anyone? Okay, there is some. Okay, tickets. Manavendra is saying it's tickets, right? So let's say it's tickets. It's a long line or multiple lines. I see at least 2 or 3 lines there for tickets. So let's say they are all standing outside a movie theater, right? So you will have to go back maybe 15-20 years or more, and I'm almost certain that maybe 20 years back most of you were not even born, right? So you may have to imagine some things. But there was a time when there was no book my show, there was no online booking, and this was the scene outside every movie theater, right? And every store, and everywhere where there was a long queue, right? Can you guys tell me, what are the problems? Bharat, you already talked about problems, right? Can you tell me what are the problems or the inconveniences that these guys are facing when they are standing in the line buying a ticket?
Long waiting time.
Wait time, yes.
Wastage of
Anybody
time.
else? Hmm? Wastage of
Wastage
time,
of
yeah.
precious time.
Correct, correct. Anything else?
Uh, Unavailability of the
Yeah.
seats.
Yeah, I mean, you don't know, right? I mean, you are standing like you are in the 100th person in the queue. By the time you reach the window, the window shuts down because the tickets are all sold, right? So yeah, you know, basically you are lacking information, right? Only if you are known that, oh, I am the 50th person in the line, and there are like 52 tickets, so I have a good chance I'll get my ticket, right? Assuming everybody gets one ticket. But if you don't have information, again, it's an inconvenience. Then Manavendra said that you have disease, right? That people are standing too close to each other, not wearing masks. But this is maybe pre-COVID, right? Nowadays, people are scared to do this. um, Standing too close to each other, not wearing masks, right? So yes, that is a threat. Anything else that comes to people, your mind? Let's say, this movie theater, is 3 kilometers away from your house, right? There is time for you to go to that movie theater, stand in the queue, buy the ticket, come back to your house, and then go back whenever the movie is playing, right? So 2 trips to the place. Yeah, so Devendra, I think he wanted to say the same thing. Go for tickets at particular place. Exactly. I mean, if there is a cinema hall away from my house, I have to make 2 trips there to watch one movie, right? And then there is no guarantee that I will get a ticket. So I'll just elaborate on this, right? There could be other things. Meaning, what is the choice? For example, this is one movie theater, maybe 1 or 2 movies playing in that one building. So that's the only choice I have, right? Then I have to stand in the queue. Maybe there is no credit card, maybe there is no GPay there. I have to carry some cash with me. I have to first go to the ATM, get some cash. There is so many things which are inconveniences here, right? And all these add up to what you have already described, right? Long queues, 2 trips, there is uncertainty whether you will get a ticket. There is no choice. You have to either watch the movie that you're seeing here or not, right? But you have no information that there is another movie theater just 1 kilometer away where there are tickets available, and no convenient modes of paying, right? All of this points to one thing, which is an underserved need, what earlier somebody described as a problem. And a solution to the problem is basically somebody spotting what is hot. So somebody, let's say book my show founders, or some smart people in this world, spotted that this is a problem that I can solve using a product, a software product, right? The next thing, the next hurdle, let's say now that okay, there is an underserved need in the market. What are the other things that you need to know, um, to be to be able to make your mind that yes, I can build this product? Anyone? Apart from
Possibility of success.
possibility of success, excellent answer. Who was that, by the way? KS
Kamal Suman.
Kamal, nice answer. So yeah, I mean, as a founder, I'm worried that I know that there is an underserved need, but how do I know that it is going to be successful? So basically, there are some things which can tell me that my product can be successful. What are those things? Can anybody take a guess? Let's say this, I make this product, but only let's say only people in Kota can use it and nobody else. If I make that product, will it be viable for a long time? Or I make a product only for a specific problem, or solving a specific problem or specific group of people. It doesn't give me the breadth, right? So it doesn't give me confidence that I will be able to sell this to many people. So the next thing is market potential. So once that there is underserved need, the next thing that comes to mind is, does the product have a high market potential, right? There is a hypothesis, nobody knows at this point in time because the product itself has not got built, but at least we can say that okay, what, there are 1.4 billion people in India. Even if I have to target, let's say half of those, which is, let's say 800 700 million people, that's still a massive market to go after. Even if I start with only like 5 large cities in India and then start growing my base to multiple other locations, I think that is still a viable option. And that is how market potential is discovered, right? That yes, I have a fairly good idea of what to build, what underserved need to solve, and the product has market potential, right? The next thing that comes to mind is, how is the environment helping me, right? Is the environment really helping? Meaning, um, how can I safeguard against pitfalls? For example, if I build a product for um, Middle East, if I build a product for Dubai, and suddenly there is a regulation that Dubai, um, you know I'm down on day one. So I have to safeguard against these pitfalls. Or for example, there is a product where to be sold in Europe, and you know there are certain payment methods which I cannot use on my product. So if people cannot pay me online, then what's the use of just having them use the product, right? So another doomsday to be arrived. So essentially what we are saying is that there are environmental parameters which one has to look at. Are Is my technology supporting me? So as you can imagine, somebody who thought about this bright idea of creating online booking, online movie show booking, definitely thought about or didn't think about smartphones that time. Didn't know that people will be shopping from their phones instead of desktops and laptops, right? Did not know that there will be net banking and GPay and Paytm and loyalty points and credit cards and like 15 different ways of paying for my ticket. That time it was probably just only cash, right? So there are environmental changes that one has to keep an eye on how my how the technology changes are helping me build my product area, right? So essentially, this is the answer, I would say, to spot a problem, to make sure that there is an underserved need, and there should be a potential, and the environment should be supporting you in order for you to at least come to terms that, okay, you know what, seems like a perfect storm, so let me start, right? Let me start with the basic. Okay, so now that we know that, okay, now I have a product idea, what is the right product, right? So anybody wants to answer what is the right product? No, any guesses? All right, so let's do this, right? Let's move further here. Where was I? Okay, so what you see on the top of the screen, right? Top right of the screen is two images. One blue colored drink, right? It's from a company called Pepsi. And on the right side, you have a spherical mouse from Apple. And then on the bottom side, there is Gatorade, as you guys know. And bottom right corner is Apple AirPods, right? Um, can you tell me the difference between the top two and the bottom two? Sorry, can you repeat? Top two failed, right? Yeah, Manavendra. Perfect answer. Can you tell me why? Exactly. So these products did not have a good product market fit. So that's one of the concepts that you will keep hearing in the product management world on one of the most important things to look at in product management, or whenever you think about building a new product, is the product market fit, right? Um, we'll have more conversation on what a product or product market fit is, right? But let's look at you know um, some more specifics. So as you can see, these top two products are by the same companies, right? Pepsi and Apple are very, very successful companies in this world, but their Pepsi's whatever that drink was called, right, blue, never sold. And do you know how they just take a digression, quick digression, right? How they tested this? So what they did was, they pretty much had the same formula for both the drinks. Do you know what why that drink failed, by the way? Anybody knows this history? Why it failed? Any guesses? Okay, I'll tell you the answer. It failed because of the color. So what they did was they put 100 bottles of that blue drink and 100 bottles of the orange drink, right? They had the exact same formula, exact same fizz, and the exact same temperature, exact same bottle shape and all that, right? Except for the color. And they put 100 bottles of this on one table, 100 bottles of the orange drink on another table, and they put this outside a tennis club. And they just put, like, whoever wants to pick up these drinks for free, go ahead and do it. And as the tennis players were finishing their matches and walking out, they picked many of them. Like, I think, I don't know the exact numbers, but 80% plus tennis players picked the orange drink and they walked out, whereas hardly anybody picked the blue drink. And that told them that, somehow that blue color does not go well with the fizz, right? But of course, there are 20% people in the world who like, a fizzy drink with blue color. But those are not what we are solving for, right? We are trying to find the product market fit. There is always going to be maybe one person who will like your product, but is that all? Is that going to give you good market potential? Is that going to give your product a long life? Probably not, right? So better to exit out of such products. And the same thing happened with the Apple spherical mouse, right? They invented this round ball like mouse thinking that it's a cool idea, but it never succeeded. But look at the bottom two products, right? So products can be right or wrong because of multiple things. One is definitely consumer emotion, right? How does it appeal to the consumer, right? So like I said, from a taste perspective, if somebody was blindfolded and they were drinking this drink, they would not make out the difference. But blue color was not appealing on that drink, and that's why they picked the orange color, which means that the product should be appealing to the customer senses, should have a good user experience. um, the the Let's go actually to the right slide. Okay, here is what we are talking about, right? So it appeals to the right customer, right persona. It solves a problem. So, like, we saw earlier, there was these long lines, inconvenience. Now I get Book My Show in my hand. I can quickly browse 10 movie theaters in my area, and I quickly can book one movie from those 10 movie theaters. I'm whole, right? So there is an underserved need that gets solved. um, Value, right? So value can be defined in multiple ways. A low cost product can also be high value to a customer, like somebody was giving the Rapido example, or Ola versus Uber, or Uber versus a limousine, or limousine versus some other chauffeur driven car, right? There is always a market for every product, and every market has a buyer and a seller. And once the seller finds enough value in your product, the seller is ready to pay money, right? So it does not mean that every product is for the masses, right? There are products made for niche markets. Can anyone anybody call out maybe a couple of products which are very niche, or let's just call it niche markets, right? Not made for masses. Fountain pens, yeah. Anybody else? That's from an expense perspective, right? Gucci, yeah. Shivanshi is saying Gucci. Manvedra is saying, let's say, whatever, Parker or whatever those pens are, the most expensive in the world. What else? I'm not talking about expense anymore. Can you think about a product which is Rolls-Royce is another expensive product? Let's move away from expensive, right? I'm not talking about a pricey product, but can there be a product which is not pricey, but it is not made for the masses? Cosmetics, yeah, Khushi, you're right. So there are hearing aids, perfect. I mean, I could say walking sticks. I could say, products for, let's say, elderly, products for infants, products for females, products for, certain with certain languages. There could be so many, right? Look at you, I mean, there are so many ideas coming up now that there are products which are always, made for certain markets, and that is your market. Don't consider the whole world as the market for the product. Consider a cohort of likely buyers, right? In that earlier example, what we saw, those people who were standing in those queues absolutely were the right cohort. But some people who don't watch movies, they were never your market. They were never the market for, the cinema halls, and they are never the market for book my show. They're not going to go to cinema, watch movies anyway, right? So that defines what the market is, right? And what value to customer is. The other important thing is to keep thinking about competition. And why should you keep an eye on competition? Anyone? And give me a long answer, or you could give me a one word answer. Anyway, any which way is fine. Why should I keep an eye on competition? Yes, Manavendra. One of the reasons is eat into your profits, eat your lunch, to become compatible. So Khushi, can you elaborate what do you mean by become compatible?
Compatible means uh, learning from other products how much we should improve on our products.
Okay, understood. I understood what you're saying. So basically, match up to competition, right? Or catch up to competition. So make sure that you are providing something more than competition, so that people like you, right? And that more could be less sometimes, right? I don't need a Ferrari, right? And I don't need like a full featured product. I just need like three things in my product. And if I can just only provide three things, then I'm still ahead of competition because I'm providing less, or providing for the exact need of my buyer, right? So that is the way that is my USP. That's how I am differentiated. So that is one other concept, right? To be differentiated from competition, because then your product will have an edge over others. Some people say that, I want to be number one and leave the number two far behind, right? Some people look at competition as, okay, you know what, they are frenemies, friends and enemies, because maybe the competition has three things and maybe I have three things which they don't have, and maybe we can collaborate and sell together, right? So while, he's my enemy, he's my friend as well, right? So sometimes competition is frenemies. Some people have a strategy of just keeping ahead of competition. So I don't care whether, the number two is far off behind. I just want to be just ahead, to be number one, right? First mover advantage, yes, absolutely. Unique product, yes, we talk about differentiation. Give better deals and retain customer, yes. Developing more effective future strategies, yes. So like Yudhishthir said, right? I mean, you build a substrate so that you can build on top of it. So sometimes what I will do in my product is not cater to my customers today, but I am catering to my customers 2 years from now, right? And I will build my platform such that I can do that well. um, and that goes to number 6 here, what you're seeing on the screen, which is acquisition strategies. So how will I acquire the customers and how will I keep them? And if you have, of course, I mean, the last one is a no brainer, right? How I will monetize, because finally, remember, we are working for a for profit company. We want to sell, we want to sell high, we want to make profits, we want to take these profits, pipe them back into the product and build the product even more, so that we can get more profits, right? So that's kind of that virtuous circle that we want to put our product in. So that's basically your monetization circle, right? That you want to get in. So essentially what we are saying is that if you have a fair bit of idea on all these things, all these 7 points, you have a fair bit of or a reasonable product market fit, right? Once you are, once you now have an idea, now you know that, okay, my product will sell, I'll be able to monetize. What next, right? What do I do? So what companies do, right, is build strategies, right? So as we saw earlier, strategies never get, like, it's not like, on day one or 20 years back somebody already knew how book my show of 2023 will look like, right? No, definitely not. So products evolve over time, products adapt to changes, adapt to customer feedback, and so on. So it's a ever changing product, right? So how much should you strategize? If somebody asks me, um, what is the difference between strategy and vision, and how do you look at those timelines? Typically, vision could be a 3 to 5 year vision where you want to take your product and product to. So it gives you a general direction, a general vector that you want to pursue. But strategy is more near term, right? Strategy should not be more than, I would say, in the modern world, in today's world, strategies should not be more than 6 quarters or 1 year, right? 1 year is 4 quarters. So 4 to 6 quarters, you are good if you have a strategy for the product 4 to 6 quarters down, right? And you should have a more detailed plan for the next quarter, right? While you are thinking about the quarter after that. Everybody understands a quarter, right? 3 months, Jan, Feb, March is Q1, and so on and so forth. So if I'm in Q2, I know what I'm going to do in Q3, and I'm planning for Q4. That's how kind of companies build upon their strategies, right? But let's look at maybe a little more detail on how a large company does it, right? So essentially, going by the same example, right? This is one framework option. And there are multiple ways that one could build, by the way, a growth strategy for a product. So if you are a product manager, your first remit, your first responsibility will be to find out whether, it need not be your idea, by the way, right? Ideas can come from anywhere. But as a product manager, what you would be required to do is first try to convince yourself that it is a good product market fit. And we talked about, multiple things around that. Second is this. Second is, okay, now that we know that it is a fit, tell me, what we are going to do in 2022, 23, 24, 25, and so on, right? I I realized there is a mistake on the slide deck. I missed 2024 in between. So it's not a, it's a typo. So essentially, the way companies think about products is, okay, this kind of spider chart, and this is how, at least today, I think, I can grow over the next 4 years, right? What is my product going to look like after 4 years? I really don't know. 3 years, I really don't know. 2 years, yeah, I have a pretty good idea. 1 year, yes, I absolutely know, what product I want to deliver in 1 year. So that's the level of clarity that product managers are expected to have. And like you see, on, let's say, the geography axis, on in year one, I will go after 2 geographies. So if I'm building a ticket booking product, first 2 years, I will go, let's say, Rajasthan and Gujarat are markets. I will only enter those 2 states. Okay. So that solves my geography problem. Then I will enable, what is that, cash on delivery, right? Which means that, you book the ticket and then you come to the ticket window and pay cash, right, with your code and whatnot. Or let's say net banking, right? So first year, COD and net banking is what I'll enable. Then from a customer perspective, there are, let's say, 5 features that I will give to the customers. So in my booking app, I will only allow, let's say, movie booking, no events, no, cricket matches, no plays, nothing, right? I will only focus and concentrate on movies because I see there is a good market there. Once I'm successful in movies, then I'll go to plays, events, music shows and whatnot. Do I want to do partnerships in the first year? Probably not. I will keep away from partnerships. And that's, the product access. We have talked about the product features, how I will build. And then from a customer perspective, let's say, I will provide my product in 2 languages to begin with, right? Let's say, or 1 language. I will only start with English, right? And next year I will see what I have to provide, right? So that next year I will add maybe 2 more languages. So likewise, from year 1, you can see the spider chart growing to year 5, and that's how the product grows over time, right? I'll take a quick break since this is kind of a logical point in between. Any questions that you guys have so far that I can answer, or shall I continue? We are about the midway mark right now. Okay, so I'll continue, but again, feel free to stop me and ask, unmute yourself, stop and ask questions, right? All right, so a lot of information on this slide, right? And this exact slide is also an entire topic, right? An entire topic of discussion, or you could say this is in your curriculum, and you will get to know in many details on what, let's say, go to market is, what engineering is, or from a business side, how to read a P&L and all that, right? But let's look at from a company perspective how a cycle works, right, in a company. And typically I'm talking about a product cycle within a company, right? So let's start with the top left corner. You have requirements, product requirements, which get handed to UX designers, which get handed to developers to build the product, which get handed to validation and verification engineers who internally validate and then externally validate the product. They roll the product out in the market, get some feedback. It feeds back into your customer success or customer support data, and you find out that, oh, I had these 5 features. Now I may need, my customers are not happy with these like 2 of the 5 features, and they want these changes in the features and all that. I use all that data in the next year's planning, and planning is basically building targets for the next either 3 months at a time or 1 year at a time, right? So these targets could be business KPIs. Typically all businesses, they have yearly targets, a revenue target or a number of customers or a stickiness, and there are multiple engagement, monetization, subscription, ad spends, lots of internal KPIs that one could target, which are called business KPIs. Anybody who knows what is a KPI? Oh, I'll come to you, Khushi, but does anybody know what is a KPI?
Key performance indicators.
Correct. Yeah. So these are health indicators for the company, right? If you are able to achieve those numbers, then you are successful. And who decides the numbers? The company management decides, right? That today my revenue is 2 crore rupees, and in the next year I want to go to 2.5 crores, and that is success to me. That becomes my business KPI, and then the whole company starts working towards that goal, right? Similarly, there are product KPIs on scale, like my product should be able to scale to we decided that my product will be English only, and I will sell it in Rajasthan and Gujarat only, right? So 2 states and English only product. Whether it can cater to that kind of massive population, yes, it can, right? So that becomes one performance KPI for my product, and so on. So these are all, everything goes in planning here. And then from a product perspective, what is called as a product backlog, right? And we'll come to that definition in a minute. but I want to let Khushi ask her question. She had a question earlier. You had raised your hand.
Sir, does software testing comes under validation, or these two are different things? Validation and testing.
So you could, so there are, again, there is, when I say validation, you're validating the product, right? I mean, we are not talking about code validation or testing of code, right? So what I'm talking about is you have built a product and a concept. You want to validate that concept in the market. So you are basically taking it out to some pilot customers, maybe, instead of all the customers, and we'll learn some techniques on how we do it, right? But here, what I'm talking about is validate the product idea that yes, this product indeed is likable or lovable by the customer. But validation is also very much used in engineering testing, right? There is a whole topic on verification and validation that you will also learn about in this process. Does that answer your question?
Sir, I was asking if testing and validation are same, or is there any difference between these two?
Okay, so it's a large topic. I think what we can conclude right now is that they are the same. But when I say testing, what are you testing, right? Are you testing code? Then it becomes, your QA testing or your engineering part of the testing before a product is released, right? From engineering to the next person that is holding it. If you're talking about me testing my product out, with customers, then I'm validating my idea, right? Whether it will sell or not. Remember our Pepsi example, where those guys, placed the blue bottle and the orange bottle outside the tennis club. That is validating the product, whether, which product is selling more. So it is testing, but it is testing applied to a different part of the product's life cycle.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Okay, so let's come to, and I mean, I'll be happy to actually get on the validation verification. I think we will over the next couple of weeks, we will have that session as well, and we can talk much more on the critical differences between QA and QC and testing and validation, and what it means when it comes to hardware, software, surveys, and so on, right? So we'll have a lot of conversation on that. So if we look at product backlog, right, top left corner, let's again switch to an interactive mode, right? I would like to understand, what is a product backlog? Anyone? Anybody wants to take a guess at what a backlog means or a product backlog means? Okay, so it is basically a list, right? You guys can hear me still, right? I just wanted to make sure that. Okay, so Shivam has answered the question, features you want to add or bugs you need to fix. Yeah, essentially that, right? So there are more things to a product backlog. So there are net new. So there is a complete new set of ideas that have come to your mind that, oh, I want to add Hindi as a language, right, for my next year. So you completed this full cycle in 3 months, or let's say 1 year. You came back to requirements and planning for the next year. You say, okay, you know what? I need to do 5 more states, and I need to do, I was only doing net banking and cash on delivery. But now I want to do GPay also, right? So I'm going to add two new things, Hindi as a language on my product and GPay as a payment method on my product, right? Tech debt is, you could say remaining piece of work from engineering, which is carried forward into this year, right? So there is always going to be a case of resource crunch, right? Anywhere you go in the industry, and specifically so in for-profit companies, because everybody wants to do more with less. The resource crunch will put constraints, and the constraints will tell you that, okay, you know what, you can do only 50 features in 1 year, because you only have, let's say, 20 people team. You can do 50 features with a 20 people team. Anything that is extra gets carried forward as next year's backlog, right? Similarly, on the engineering side, oh, I want to do this cloud based architecture and microservices architecture, but instead of building the microservices, all the microservices on day one, I'll do some other things for this year, and as we move further along in the next year and next year and so on, I will slowly change my architecture. That delta work that is remaining from this year is called technical debt. Similarly, there is enhancement, right? Remember, we got feedback in our validation cycle. Somebody told us that your trending movies that come up on the landing screen, they don't scroll. So you have to manually scroll left to right or light whatever, right, to to get to the right spotlight that you want, right? So if they don't scroll, it's still, my customer is not fully satisfied, my customer is not fully happy. I will put it in an enhancement. And then, like somebody said, right, there are bugs. So like Shivam said, there are always bugs in the product, and I want to fix some of these bugs. You can always already imagine that in 1 year's time there is so much of work that got added for year two, right? And all of that work is all listed in like a long list, a long laundry list, which is called a product backlog, right? So product backlog is nothing but a list of new items, technical debt, enhancement, and bugs. And there could be maybe some other strategic items that, okay, you know what, apart from India, I want to also go in the Middle East, so I want to spend some time testing, making few changes to my product to test Middle East market and all that. So all those kind of things could be another bucket which I've not listed here, but this list is a long list of things. Now, in order to kind of remember what constraint we had only 20 people who can build 50 features, and now you have a list of, let's say, or can do work only on 50 items, but now you have a list of 80 items. What do you do? Anyone? If you have, let me pose the problem one more time. Let's say for year two, the next year, I have a list of 80 things to be done, right? But I have only a 20 people team which can only do 50 things in 1 year. How should I solve that problem? It's not a very complex answer if you are thinking anything complex. Anybody wants to take a stab at how will you solve that? Yeah, Payal, prioritize which things to be done first, right? Perfect. And can you come off mute and tell me, is prioritization applicable to product management or is it everywhere else? Payal? I mean, your answer is bang on. Your answer is absolutely accurate. That prioritization is the way to solve the problem that I stated. Shivansh had another answer, which is, that extra 30 items, he'll offload to other companies. But Shivansh, remember that, there is another constraint that you will be running into, which is money, right? What if your finance manager tells you that I can't give you money to move this work to other companies. We are still stuck. Maybe you can still give some work to those companies, but then you'll have to cut some of your internal costs. But the money is finite, right? So yes, prioritization does solve this problem, but Payal, can you give me an example of how do you prioritize? Or anyone, right? Anyone on this call? How to prioritize? Anyone? So let's think about this, right? I'm just going to take a guess that everybody woke up at, let's say, 7 a.m. in the morning, and everybody you know um, came to their college campus at 9 a.m. in the morning. So you had 2 hours, right, from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Since the time you woke up to the time that you arrived at your college, 2 hours, and you had like 10 things to do, right? But obviously, you don't have all the time in the world to do all those 10 things, right? What do? You prioritize. But what is the basis of prioritization? So I think Manavendra is kind of hitting the right keywords there: critical, high priority, low priority. But can you tell me, the basis? I mean, it's very,
Sir, prioritize,
sorry, go ahead.
prioritize the things which add more value.
Shivansh, can you come again? I didn't catch your answer.
Mean to say, sir, prioritizing mean that prioritizing 50 out of 80, which add more values than the remaining 30 ones.
Absolutely, exactly. But that value could be defined in many ways, right? So what we need is some kind of a scoring system, a standard scoring system, right? So what you do, when you leave your house or when you wake up is also a subconscious prioritization, right? We do it all day and night. We do it in our personal lives, we do it in our work lives, we do it in our college lives, right? So what is more important at this point in time? Do the most important thing, right? To later, right? So now, next, later. So if I cannot do this now, if I cannot do three things at a time right now, I will only do the one thing which is the most important, and these two things I'll move to the next or the later bucket. After I'm done doing this, I will spend time doing that, right? This is still qualitative, but we will learn a technique where we can actually make it very objective and make it very consistent, make it very fair and equitable across the organization on how to prioritize. So just hold on to that thread and we'll come back to that, right? My other question is this new top left corner, you're seeing new, right? New requirements. Can you tell me how do you get these new requirements? I mean, you have, let's say, going by the same example, now you have Rajasthan and Gujarat as two states, and you want to go to, like, let's say, MP and Maharashtra and Goa, three more states to be added, right? But that itself is such a huge population, right? Between MP plus Maharashtra plus Goa is a huge population. Um, how do you know what are the new requirements? How do you get to the customers? What are the techniques that you will use? Any ideas that that come to your mind? Customer feedback, competition, yes. So definitely, you will learn about competition. Surveys, absolutely. Market research, yes. All great answers, by the way. Any other techniques that you guys know or have heard of? Respective area culture, yeah, you could call it part of market research, that you will find out what works in Maharashtra, what works in Goa, and so on, right? Possible to go talk to you know 200 million people in Maharashtra to find out what they like? You can't. Yes, Payal, you are saying prototype launch. Absolutely, that is one technique that is used. A click-through prototype, typically, that you don't spend a lot of money coding, but you show screens, right? You show a journey from one screen to another, and I'll show you a journey on this in this time itself. Okay, so let's move, right? Let's move forward to some of the actual techniques, right? So if you have covered all this, okay. So if you go here, right, how do we know what is new? So there are focus group discussions where you actually call a set of people from Goa and Maharashtra and Madhya Pradesh in a room and have a focused group conversation that, look, we are going to launch this product in your markets. Give us an honest feedback whether you will like this or not like this, and so on. So they go with a very structured kind of discussion Q&A. They don't try to influence anybody's thoughts or feedback, and they take very honest feedback from these sample customers and or sample prospects. Then they are not still customers, and they use it to define what possibly could be new features or new things, new experiences that I can give to these markets. Second is observational, play with the product. So take your same product, take your product that you have launched in Gujarat and give it to somebody in Maharashtra and say, okay, play with it, and I'll just watch you how you're you so you can find out intuitively what the people are looking at and how they are looking at, and so on. Then there is surveys and questionnaires. I think somebody, Khushi, already said surveys. So absolutely, surveys and questionnaires is a very popular technique of understanding what a sample set of early adopters or prospective customers are seeking. Then there are field interviews. People actually walk the streets, right? They actually go to the streets and they interview. You must have experienced it. People standing outside malls and interviewing other people on whether if I give you this choice, whether you will buy this product or not, and so on. There is social sentiment tracking, so could be done online, that you for a certain product launch, what was the sentiment analytics that happened at that point in time, and how did the market react to this product's launch, when was it launched, and so on. So there is all those, that sentiment analytics and tracking that could be done. And then you actually write down all these user goals, right? So you collect all this information and write it down as, these are the user's goals. This is what I observed through observing the user. So somebody said, click through prototype, right? Payal said that. So absolutely, there are prototypes which are built, they are given to the customer, and then you just observe. Sometimes these prototypes can do tracking of journey. So they can actually tell you that first the user clicked here, then the user clicked here, then the user was trying to find a search button but could not find, he found it on the third page, and blah blah blah, right? So there is ways to track it programmatically also, but these are all ways to track the user goals. Similarly, there is business goals, business case development that one has to do. Once okay, what, I have these requirements from this market, I want, and I have a concept that I've built. I will prioritize like 3-4 concepts that, let's say you find out that Maharashtra and Goa are heavy users of GPay. And somebody says that, oh, if you have to launch a product in Maharashtra, you have to have GPay. Or if you want to launch a product in Madhya Pradesh, you have to have Hindi as a language, right? If somebody comes up with that, that concept gets prioritized on top, and how we'll come to. And then there is cost benefit analysis. We will come to that also. But essentially, you guys know, right? Cost benefit analysis is basically for what kind of spend are you getting, what kind of return. So if I spend $100 for X thing, then what is my return? Whereas I spend $112 for Y thing, what is my return? And then you calculate the return on investment, and whoever wins, that concept gets taken forward, right? So these are all ROI calculators, and everything is, pretty much industry standard. They're very much available with finance teams in many places. All right, so let's now come to the technique, right, that I was talking about. So there are many techniques for prioritization. Remember, we'll go back to our old problem: 80 features or 80 experiences that you want to deliver, but you can only build 50. You got to prioritize 50. All of you have answered that question, that let's say we prioritize on the basis of value, right? Let's just call it overall impact, right, or impact score. But there are various ways of prioritizing these PBIs. PBI is product backlog item, right? It's basically one of those, every line item in those 80 things that is on our laundry list is a PBI. The techniques are RICE model, and we'll learn about that. There is Moscow, there is now, next, later, and there is a value and risk matrix. Kind of homework, or you can learn more about that on the internet. Let's look at one technique, which is the RICE model, right? So the way to look at this is RICE. Basically, as you can see at the bottom of the screen, RICE is basically a rank or a score. It's called a RICE score: R multiplied by I multiplied by C divided by E, right? That gives you a score. But how do you calculate it? So reach is how many customers do I reach. So that, okay, there is all of Maharashtra, Goa, and Madhya Pradesh to reach. So that is my reach, right? But I'm not talking about that, right? What I'm talking about, okay, that is your market potential, that every person in those 3 states will be using your product. But what I'm saying is, with that one line item number 53 or whatever, right, that you are looking at, you have to give it a score. So let's look at 2 line items, right? One, that you are going to add Google Pay to your app. And second, you are going to add, let's say, Hindi language to your app. So Hindi and Google, 2 things contesting for, let's say one is number 50 and other is number 51, right? And the score between them will define who gets in and who remains out, right? Because remember, we only have capacity to do 50. So if we get into that kind of mode, right, and this is not to be done with only 1 or 2, right? This is to be done with pretty much every line item. Every line item gets a score, and then you just simply sort it, and you will know, which ones are at the top, right? So that's the technique. Now let's learn what and how to do it, right? So I want some volunteers for this, right? Can anyone of, I want 2 volunteers basically, one for Hindi and one Hindi language that we are going to add, and one for Google Pay that we are going to add to our product. Anyone wants to raise their hands and volunteer? This is a very easy and fun exercise, guys. Come on. Okay, Shivansh, you want to take what, Hindi or Google Pay?
Google Pay.
Okay. Who wants to take? Okay, Payal is Hindi, Shivansh is Google Pay, right? Okay, wonderful. I think we got more participants, but okay, we got 2. All right, so we'll play with 2 right now. Okay, so just give me 1 second. Now, what you see on the screen is, let's evaluate Google Pay end to end, and then we'll go evaluate Hindi end to end, right? So Google Pay perspective, if I tell you that, Google Pay is massive volume, It is a high needle mover, meaning the reach is massive, right? Google Pay reach is massive. The business impact is also very, very high, right? It's a high needle mover. How much of impact to the business it causes? Because remember, somebody uses Google Pay, tells his or her friends to pay. Sometimes, there are like 5 people who want to go to a movie, but only 2 have Google Pay, but 3 have cash. So one Google Pay guy says that, okay, you know what, give me cash and I'll pay for all of you, right? Let's split it that way. That actually increases the potential of the product. Remember, there is only one person paying for the ticket, but that one person through Google Pay is paying for 5 tickets, which otherwise somebody who did not have Google Pay would not have been able to pay at all, right? So that is kind of the collateral gain that one has, right? So, and thus we would call Google Pay a needle mover. That's the business impact. Confidence, everybody knows that confidence is inversely proportional to risk. High confidence meaning low risk, low confidence meaning high risk. I can give you maybe an example, right? That let's say, what comes to mind? Okay, so cricket match, and Virat Kohli is playing in that cricket match, and that match is in Mumbai or Delhi, let's say, whatever, right? Or Bangalore. So there are 3 matches, and Virat Kohli is playing in that match. What are the chances that all the tickets are going to get sold? Very, very high, right? So somebody who is thinking about, oh, will the ticket get sold for the matches or not? My confidence level is very high. My risk is very low, right? That's so the input parameter that you had was that it is in Bangalore, it's cricket, and Kohli is playing, right? Very, very high chances all the tickets will get sold. Confidence is very high. Let's look at you want to launch a product in France, right? Same product, you want to go to Europe and launch it in France. The unknowns, right? There are a lot of unknowns. First, I don't know what is the regulatory norms there. There is something called as a GDPR, right? Because of which, there is a lot of security related changes that I will have to make to my product, and I don't know whether I'll still be able to sell. Third, there is a big language barrier. Even if I get French in, I don't know whether I'll be able to do that within the 3 to 5 month period that I've been given to launch this product. So it gives me a little low confidence to launch that product in France versus selling tickets to a cricket game in Bangalore, right? I'm just giving you 2 unconnected, disconnected scenarios to give you a sense of what is high confidence, low risk, and low confidence, high risk, right? So I think now you got it. Let's move on to the last one, which is effort versus complexity. So again, there could be a lot of effort that I have to put in for one small change, right? So for example, I want to move my product from Google Cloud Platform to Amazon Web Services. Nothing else on my platform is going to change. So for my customer, if the customer is seeing a landing page, it's going to be the same landing page tomorrow. But I have to plan, I have to spend a lot of time to make that switch. From a customer's perspective, there is hardly anything, right? Hardly any value. But from a effort perspective, it is massive effort. So moving from Google Cloud to Amazon, my reach has not changed, my business impact has not changed, my confidence is good because Amazon is good, Google is also good, but my effort is massive, right, to move from one platform to another. So that's one extreme example, but that's how you should think about effort, right? Every time you are enhancing, you're putting more more features into a product or enhancing a feature, there is a cost involved. And the cost is the time spent by the developer, time spent by the product manager, tester, marketing person, sales guy. Everybody's time and salaries and everything is added together, and that becomes the cost of delivering that product right to the market. So effort is a big deal, and effort goes to the denominator, as you see. So again, if you have high effort, the score is going to be low. If you have low effort, the score is going to be high. Now, Payal and Shivansh, can you solve this? I have concept 1 and concept 2 on the screen, and everybody else can solve this also. You know, you can just type in your answers in the chat. I'll give you 30 seconds and we'll come back again. What you need to do is use the score, the formula below, to calculate what is the score of concept 1 and concept 2. All right, Shivansh, concept 1 is 200. Payal, let me know after you get your answer, or anybody wants to help Payal, please go ahead. Anybody wants to challenge Shivansh, please go ahead. Okay, maybe the last 15, another 30 seconds if you want. Okay, Manavendra says 400 for concept 2. All right. Anybody wants to challenge that? Payal, do you want to challenge that? Shivansh is saying 1000 for concept 1. So Shivansh is changing his answer now. Okay. All right, let's do this, guys. Okay. Shivansh, can you come off mute? Let's do this interactively. Do you have a calculator?
Previously, I didn't read out the attributes for concept 1, that the third and fourth attribute, that the concept 1 have low confidence and high complexity. So that's why then I have looked on it, and that's why I changed the answer. So how
No.
1000? First
Okay,
of all,
why don't we do this? Let's work it together so that the rest of the group also understands it, right? So let's look at concept 1, and I'll call out the number. Shivansh, you have a calculator with you?
yes, sir.
All right. So concept 1, right? Massive volume. Massive volume is 40.
Yes, sir.
40 multiplied by
10.
high needle mover 10
400.
multiplied by low confidence, meaning high risk,
Which means high
which is
risk, sir.
5. Huh?
Yeah, which means high risk. That's 5. 400 multiplied by 5. That's 2000.
2000, and divided by high complexity is 10. Okay. So concept 1, the answer is 200.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Let's look at concept 1 is 200. Let's look at concept 2, right? So Payal, do you want to unmute? Let's go through concept 2. Ready? You have a calculator? Can you hear me? It seems like some audio issue, is it? Are you guys able to hear me okay? I am not able to hear Payal. Okay, let's do this, right? Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes, sir, you are
Okay.
audible.
Okay, all right. So Payal, I'll call out the numbers. You can do the same math, right? Concept 2, high volume is 20 multiplied by medium grosser is 5 multiplied by medium confidence is 8, which is 800 divided by low complexity is 2, right? So
Yes,
that's
sir.
400.
Yes, sir.
So concept 2 equal to 400. Yeah. All right. So that's how you, if you are in a dilemma, whether I should do this or that, use this technique. And very, very essential that if you have 80 things to do and you can only do 50, absolutely use this technique. You don't need to use this technique if you have only 40 things to do and you have capacity to do 50 things, right? You're basically going to do everything. So you don't need to use this technique. But barely ever happens in the industry that you have more resources and less things to do, right? So essentially this is a very important technique. um, i'll I'll pause here. I would solicit any questions that you have on the technique, because this is just one technique that we learned. You have to do it for everything, right? All those 80 items, and then score them, right? So this is fifth standard mathematics, as you can see. But can you tell me, where does the intelligence lie in this entire slide? What is the crux of this scoring model? Anyone? Where does the intelligence sit? The math that we did was easy, right? Yeah, exactly. Figure out this figures, meaning which figures, Shivansh? Are you talking about?
So figures means these research volume, business impact, this RIC and E, these figures, sir, these figures.
Exactly. So what you're seeing is, in each of what you see, the weights, right? This column is not very clear, but let's say if you're looking at reach, you're seeing massive equal to 40, high equal to 20, medium equal to 5, low equal to 2. That is something which you need to define, right? That is one input to the formula that you need to define. The intelligence is here, on the blue boxes that you see. Concept 1, you have decided, Shivam has done research and analytics and a lot of discussions with customers, focus group conversations, ROI calculators, talk to engineering managers, found out how much of complex the product is, how much effort will it take, how much is the confidence level. All of that is the background work that has happened. And then you have arrived at, adding Google Pay to app is massive volume, high needle mover, low confidence, and high complexity. That is where the intelligence is, right? Everything else is very simple mathematics. But to be able to get there, it takes time. It takes time, effort, sometimes even age, right? That you have to do this for like 3 different products before you become conversant with a technique of how do you know that this will sell or not sell, right? For example, you guys may be riding a bike, right? Or a moped or a scooty or whatever to college, and suddenly somebody tells you that you know um, scooty is your product. Why don't you change the white light to yellow light, right? The headlight of your scooty or the headlight of your bike, change it from white to yellow, right? Very easy to change, right? But so much of market research to be done behind it to arrive at a decision that yes, you change from one color to another. So that is where the intelligence lies. And you have to have that intelligence for each of those 80 line items, remember. Only then you will be able to calculate everything. And that requires a lot of stakeholder conversations. That requires a lot of hypothesis building. If you don't know that, you may want to look up what is hypothesis and how do you build a hypothesis, something which has not happened, but you are saying that, if these three conditions become true, then this condition will also become true, and this product will be very successful. That is hypothesis, right? And you have to support your hypothesis with a lot of background, right? A lot of supporting data. So from a concept perspective, right, I'll kind of revise very, very quickly on okay, I'll just hold off till we complete the next topic. It will take another 5 minutes, and then we can revise everything, right? So this is one kind of a journey. Let's say, this is again Book My Show. As you can see, in the middle where you see Brad Pitt, that's called a spotlight. You have been given you know an enhancement request that spotlight should show trending movies in the last week, right? And it should load in like less than 1 second. Otherwise, people get very distracted if your data does not load in a short interval of time. So if that is kind of the requirement, right, what a product manager needs to do is first document that requirement, right? First of all, we should understand what is a requirement. Do you guys understand what is a requirement? Anybody wants to take a stab at that? What is a product requirement? So essentially, it is a description of either the enhancement request or either the tech debt or either the bug or the new feature that you're going to add, right? But how do you describe it? You have to describe it in a standard language that your company is going to use. Why do we need standard language? Because there is marketing who is going to use the same requirement and polish it and turn it into something which they can market and create a big banner and say that we are going to do GPay, right? We are introducing GPay on our app. It is the test engineers who are going to test GPay, which means that they have to study how the GPay integration works, how the API GPay APIs work, what are the responses, what kind of data do you need to feed, is it a JSON response, then how do I tackle that JSON response? So there is enough and more that the test engineers and the programmers need to know, right, exactly how the behavior is going to be. Then likewise, there are many other departments in the company, including the product managers, who need to know what we are building, why we are building, for whom we are building, and what is going to be the end results. That's all encapsulated in a business case. But how will the product function is encapsulated in a requirement, right? So essentially, let me actually show you a structure of the requirement, right? So the requirement is has the following anatomy, right? Typically, a requirement should have user goals, the business goals, right? User goal is what the user wants to do. The user wants to see the latest trending movies within the last week on the landing page of Book My Show, right? That's the user goal. The business goal is, we put this requirement out, or we roll out this experience to the new user, and my user base grows by 20%. That's the business goal, that I'm going to do this for the user so that I get 20% more customers, right? And then there is return on investment. There is epics and user stories, and we'll talk about more of that. So on an epic level, you're talking about, let's say, all epics related to Maharashtra, right? So it's like a top level story that for everything to do with Maharashtra, there is an epic and there are multiple user stories. It's basically a hierarchy, right? The parent story is that you want to go roll out a product to Maharashtra, and then the child stories are, okay, in Maharashtra, how will GPay work? How will English language work? How will Hindi work? And this and that, and all the changes that you will do for the particular region. Then how will the user interact, right? What is the user interaction design? So does it mean that I will have left to right scrolling or right to left scrolling on that spotlight? what is going to be the acceptance criteria? Is it okay if I wait 3 seconds, or is it okay if I wait 1 second? What is really acceptable? Or should it be touch enabled? Should it be not? Um, After I scroll once, should it land and wait 3 seconds on the next screen and then keep auto scrolling? All of these are defined in the acceptance criteria. What is the acceptable behavior of the product for that particular new functionality? And then there are other specific requirements, right? We already talked about this, that you are building for a specific persona. So if you are building a, a, a piece of software, you should keep in mind that, always keep a persona in mind, right? Remember, we talked about focused group conversations. We called whatever 30 people in a room, which represented Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, and Goa, and 10 people. So 10 people representing, millions of people in Maharashtra, right? That 10 people is a sample, and that sample is called the persona. So who are you building your software for? You're building for a persona. The persona helps you because, remember, we very early on we talked about a product market fit, and some of you said pet food, some of you said walking stick or hearing aid and all that, right? That will tell you what is your sample, what is your ideal customer looking like, right? And that's persona. And here is a sample story. So this has a particular structure which says that as Pile. So let's say, this, our persona is Pile, right? We are building software which Pile can use, and Pile represents 100 million people who are in my target group, right? Target for a customer acquisition. So I'm building, the product for Pile. So as Pile, I want to use the feature so that I get this benefit. This is a typical structure that one uses. If you look at the bottom 2 bullet points, it tells you, as a customer, I want to see the trending movies so that I can conveniently choose the one to buy tickets, right? That becomes a user story. And then the acceptance criteria that, the trending movies, how many do I want to see? I need to be very specific. As a product manager, you can't say that, let the engineers decide, right? You have to make sure that you tell the engineers that I want to scroll 4 movies, right? On mobile, and 10 movies on web app, because web app is a larger form factor. I can show 10 movies on the web app, but 4 movies on the mobile phone, right? You have to be very specific when you create requirements. Movies should be top trending within the current week. So don't show me something which is 2 months old, right? So the test engineer will know that, okay, you know what? I'm seeing a movie, everything else is working fine. I'm only seeing 4 movies on mobile, 10 movies on web app and all that. They are loading in time. There are tool tips, it's all working well, but the movies are like 2 months old, right? Still, it's a failure. So you have to be as specific as possible on the acceptance criteria. And the requirements are functional and non-functional in nature. Typically, functional requirements are anything that is visible, right, to the customer or to Pile. In this case, visible to Pile meaning Pile can pay, Pile can look at offers, Pile can look at trending movies, Pile can, click a button and save her favorites, and Pile can share with her friends, right? So all these are customer journeys which one can interact with the product and do. But then there are some things which are hidden, right, from Pile or from the persona that we are talking about, which is the performance, the scalability, the reliability, the security of the product, right? So it's called PSS or PSR or PS for the product manager to define. So I'll take a stop here. We are almost on time, but I'll spend maybe 1 or 2 minutes on Q&A, and then there is a homework. Any questions that you guys have? Okay, so let me do this, right? Let me quickly revise everything that we talked about so far, and then meanwhile, you think of or send them to me in chat, right? So we talked about, if you guys, go back in time in the last 2 hours, we talked about uh, underserved need. We talked about high market potential. We talked about product market fit. We talked about what is the right product. We talked about growth strategies, how a company strategizes. Then, the cycle, right? The entire cycle that works within a company, right from requirements to design to engineering to testing or validation to to planning and then to requirements. Then, we discussed how do we get all these results. Somebody said, surveys and all good questions, right? You hit the right points there on how to get these things out, right, from customers. So focus group conversations, surveys, walkthrough prototypes or click through prototypes and so on. Then we talked about a specific technique on prioritization, which is very important in companies. And lastly, we talked about the structure of a requirement, which is a common language in a company. What you see on the screen is a user story. And if somebody asks you that, hey, Shivam, write this requirement for me, you will write it in this format, right? That as Shivam, I want to do this so that I can get this. And these are the acceptance criteria. That becomes a requirement written in the form of a user story, right? So that's basically, what we covered. Now, what you guys will do as a homework is that select, like Netflix or WhatsApp, right? Just to keep it consistent, I would say that, whoever wants to pick Netflix can pick Netflix. Whoever wants to take WhatsApp example can take WhatsApp, and write 10 requirements, right? Think about everything that WhatsApp does. Think about maybe one or two new ideas that you have on WhatsApp or Netflix, whatever, right? Whichever product you select out of those two, and write those requirements. Write 10 requirements down. That, okay, you know what? Let's do this, right? Let's write 8 current requirements. So 8 things which are already there in the product, and write 2 new requirements for the product, right? So 8 and 2. So that makes it 10 requirements, and then use the RICE model to prioritize those 10 requirements. That out of those 10, which one will you take first, which one second, third, fourth, and number 10, right? That is basically the homework for today. Now, I will end by saying that, this is like Nayan was saying, this is actually a up and coming field. It is now no more suspense on what product management is, but a very enriching, fulfilling kind of career for anybody who wants to get into this space. And somebody, if somebody asks me, what does a product manager do? I would say that, the product manager is the one who could simplify explaining what the product is to his grandmother, right? So if you can in a very simple language explain what your product is to your grandmother, then you will be definitely, heading in the right direction of becoming a good product manager. But nevertheless, there are a lot of, techniques, there are a lot of concepts, there is a lot of experience that one could rely on. And of course, what you see here is everything that a product manager is supposed to do, right, as a part of his or her remit. So in one word, if somebody is asking me what a product manager does, I would say orchestration, right? So I will stop here. Would like to know if there are any questions or any comments from you guys. All right. Any any coordinator or faculty on this call? Anything that this is recorded? I think, right?
Yes, sir. It's recording.
Okay, so this is recording, and which means that whoever could not attend can always hear the recording also, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
We will share it with all.
Okay, and who am I speaking to right now?
So it's Vishrut.
Vishrut, you are a faculty or you are a student?
So coordinator, student
Coordinator.
coordinator.
Okay,
Yes.
wonderful. All right. So so I think thanks everybody. Thanks for your time. It was my pleasure. But if you have questions, please reach out to me through through your management, through Vishrut or anybody else, and we'll be happy to answer your questions.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you.
So thank you, sir, for your very interesting and thoughtful, thought-provoking address. Thanks to all the students also for joining the session. Hope you all have a great day ahead.
Thank you, guys. Have a nice weekend. Bye.